I'm Jason Takhtadjian, and welcome back to another episode of the Talk Show. Today we have a very special guest and my good friend Gary Chivichyan. Gary, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. The show is still in its infancy, so I do appreciate folks like you and other folks who are really impactful and big in the Armenian community coming on and supporting a fellow Armenian who's trying to bring a positive show out there. And appreciate you coming on. I know it's been a crazy past year, past 12 months for you. It's been quite wild. 12 months ago, so last November, where were you at?
Last November, good question. Last November, I believe I was just arriving to my second year in Lebanon, preparing for what was, what I was hoping to for, have a great season, have a much better year than the first outing. And yeah, I mean, I was really in a really kind of like a in a mode where I wasn't doing anything. Prior to leaving to my overseas season that year, I was in a complete blackout mode. I wasn't on social media for about 8 months leading into there. I wasn't on. I was not at any family events. I was at any gatherings. I was just focused on having a great season, and luckily it paid off.
That's good. That's really good. I mean, tell me about, just kind of like your time in Lebanon, kind of wrapping up, just what were kind of the takeaways for you, from a professional side, in the basketball side of things, but also takeaways as far as just, what have you learned, like, as far as like life lessons or anything you learned from your takeaway playing for home in that meant Beirut.
Yep. So I should also say, first of all, it's a pleasure to be on the show. Obviously, I know it's still in its infancy stage, but you're not in your career. You've done some tremendous things, and pretty much everybody in the Armenian community, whether they're Gary Chivichyan or anybody else, they all know you. They all respect you. So it's a pleasure to be here. Just to throw that out there.
I appreciate it, man.
Secondly,
I
yeah,
appreciate it.
of
I don't
course.
feel like I deserve it just yet, but I appreciate it, man.
Oh
Thank
no,
you.
you do. Um, I would say, going to Lebanon, it's an interesting it was an interesting type of avenue because I was going there after playing, 5 years in Division I basketball, playing at Idaho State, and then I played at University of Pacific. So, and then after that, of course, I spent the 2 years in the G League after the draft, and spent some time with the Clippers in Sacramento, had the pre-draft workouts, and then I ended up in Lebanon, right? So it was just like this complete change of scenery, change of, play style, everything, right? And going to Lebanon, I just didn't know what to expect. I had no clue. I thought, I was going to walk in there and just absolutely dominate. But when you get there, you start realizing that, oh, damn, a lot of these imports here are former NBA players. Oh, damn, a lot of these players here have been professionals for 10, 12 years. And, it is a cash cow league compared to a lot of overseas leagues around the world. This is one of the higher paying leagues, and to be honest, one of the more competitive leagues as well. I mean, if you take out the Euro League maybe, and you take out a couple other leagues, it's a fight. You know what I mean? And when I got there my first year, I didn't come in with the preparation and the mindset that I needed to, and I had an okay year, but coming into the second year, like I said, I went in a zero dark 30 mode, no friends, no family, nothing but work, nothing but focus. And luckily, I dominated, which kind of led to everything else.
A lot has changed though. Ever since that season wrapped up, you finished your season with home commitment, playing in the playoffs. You ended up getting on some NBA Summer League rosters. Tell us a little bit about, kind of that transition process, going from Lebanon, coming back home into the U.S., and kind of what that process was like for you.
Yeah, oh man, it was great. I had that vision in my mind after, in terms of the next attainable NBA goal for me after, getting drafted in 2021 and having some of those NBA experiences, playing in the G League and so on. The next attainable NBA goal for me as an Armenian kid, aspiring Armenian kid, professional basketball player, was to get into the NBA Summer League. And it was something that I was had in my mind for a year, maybe two, maybe three, and I kept coming at it every summer. But I think the 8 to 9 months leading into this past summer, I did what it took in the sense of my workout, my focus, my marketing, my prayers, my just a full 360 compact of everything that needed to be done. I did it, and with chance and with I don't know what, we made it happen. I mean, obviously, I want to thank my agency who was a part of making this happen, who put me in the right door. And then of course I was here after Lebanon, after the season, here training with Coach V, and battling through an injury. I mean, people don't know the story, but coming back from Lebanon, I was very hurt. I wasn't able to run or sprint or do any of it, and I just muscled through it. I had mental practices, trying to visualize, and the opportunity with the Bucks was there. And there was a couple other teams as well that showed interest to bring me into the training camp of summer of the NBA Summer League. But as you know, Jason, being around sports, just because you're invited to the training camp doesn't mean you make the team. You know what I mean? There's 25 guys coming into training camp. There's 12, 13, 15 spots or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
So coming in, I was kind of nervous. I was, I mean, luckily I've been inside an NBA facility before, so I kind of knew what to expect in sense of the rhythm and motion. But I was injured. Luckily, 4 days before I left out to Milwaukee for the training camp, somebody really close to me named Dr. Philip McDonald got me inside a clinic. I had some injections done into my groin. It just got me over the edge just enough. And luckily when I got out there, you're competing with really good players, either guys who've played in the NBA already or the best in the G League, or guys coming in. And it was tough, man. I almost got cut after the first 2 days, but I came in so good in the third and fourth and fifth, sixth day, and dominated. And I put out some of those highlights on my Instagram, and thank God, and luckily it got me to that point where I got that opportunity and went to Las Vegas.
That's the thing that, some people might not understand. Like maybe people were watching the games themselves, right, and expecting to see you play. But at the end of the day, you were able to still stay on the roster, and you were playing up against people who have been in the G League for multiple years or have been in the NBA and are taking some time in the G League, vice versa. It's also the Milwaukee Bucks. So you're talking about a franchise that has been to the playoffs on multiple occasions. They won a championship not too long ago. So you have that sort of experience and that influence also on the coaching side of stuff. So I still think it's a pretty big achievement to be able to stay there. But you did talk about, kind of like the adversity that you were dealing with there on top of the injury you had.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's tough in there. You walk in, you got 6'10" dudes jumping out the gym. I'm already at a disadvantage with my injury, but because I was just able to be persistent, because I was able to come in with some confidence and shift a gear after day two. Because during training camp, I had bad 2 days, and the first 2 days, and when I got to the hotel on the second day, my agent called me and I picked up the phone. I was like, hello. And he was like, dude, he's like, you got to pick it up. And I was like, what's going on? And he's like, the general manager just called me, and he's like, you don't pick it up, you're getting cut because you're competing against dudes who are, they're certified. So that night, I remember I stayed up, started reading some books, man. Started really, really praying. Obviously, I've been praying for months and months and months and years. But I would wake up, I would get in the gym at 6 a.m. Practice was at 9. I'd try to get the body warm, try to get the groin warm, and then I just went in there and just let it fly. You know what I mean? And I really started dominating, and I showed them that, hey, I do belong here. I'm here for a reason. You guys called me here for a reason. You guys obviously seen my highlights and what I did in the previous professional year. But they had to see it right there on that
Right.
court. And then for consecutive days, day 3, day 4, day 5, all the way into week 2, I really started finding my rhythm, started hitting my shots, started moving a little bit better on defense, staying in front of my man. And I'll never forget it. The last day leaving to Las Vegas, was when they finalized that roster. And I remember walking into the gym and seeing guys, pack their bags and go the other way from the bus. And that's when you knew who in a sense, who was cut.
Yeah.
and like you said, like I was up against some real dudes that have played in the NBA. I'll give you an example. I mean, I believe what's his name, McDaniel's, his older brother. He's been in the league for 5 years. You know what I mean? Now they got to choose between me and this guy and four other guys who played on four other NBA teams.
Yeah.
So it was a dogfight, and luckily, I was obviously super thankful for the opportunity, and obviously it did a lot for me. So I'm trying to capitalize and continue moving forward, and I'm healing up from some injuries, and we'll see what's next in the playing career for me. But I'm just thankful, to be here right now. So.
We'll talk a little more about, like the future playing career plans, but that time in Vegas, you still had a pretty sizable amount of support, especially from the Armenian community. Talk to us a little bit about that, and talk to us like, did you have opportunity to talk with some of the fans and get to like have those one-on-ones as well?
Yeah, yeah, no, great question, man. It was an awesome experience in Las Vegas. The Armenian community is wonderful, extremely supportive. Obviously, I understand that it's in a sense it's an accomplishment. It's amazing for the Armenians to kind of be able to come to Las Vegas and see an Armenian put on an NBA jersey. And for them, it was a great moment, and for me, it was an amazing moment because I got a chance to speak to parents, shake hands, take pictures. There was a lot of publicity behind it. It was the first time I've been followed around with paparazzi, so that was new to me. Um, but it was good. It was very supportive, extremely loud, and walking around and the Wynn Hotel, countless amount of Armenians, and even non-Armenians who are maybe, let's say, from undeserving communities or underprivileged communities, or kids trying to make their way, who came up to me and said, like, wow, like, you really inspired my son. Like, we feel like anything's possible now. Like, if you can do this, then we feel like we can do this. And I always tell people, I'm like, it's like, for me, it's like I want all these other kids who aspire and want to be professional basketball players, or whether want to play overseas or want to play Division I college or want to play in the NBA or whatever. I tell these kids, it's your job to pass me. You know what I mean? You guys got to come past me, and it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember the Instagram post you had from inside the Wynn Casino Hotel, and you were like just swarmed with like a crowd of like fans, and like that was really interesting to see, and really cool to see just like the Armenian community again coming out to support because Armenians, they love their sports and they want to see somebody become like that NBA star or somebody that is like a namesake in the NBA. But you were one of the few guys, if not the only guy, really, that's kind of shown that it is possible, but here are the ways to do it. And I feel like
Mhm.
now, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like now you're kind of taking that role of like trying to inspire the next generation and show them that like, hey, you have to put in the work, but it is obtainable. It's just very
Mhm.
difficult, but you have to put in the work to get the goals that you want.
No, yeah, yeah, you're spot on. I mean, ever since, I haven't spent too much time here in Los Angeles, but since I've been back, I've realized that the community, particularly the Armenian community,
Mhm.
but beyond that as well, there's a lot of parents that love the game of basketball. There's a lot of parents that have great kids, talented kids, very able. And if you look back in the last 10 years, even 15 years, maybe even past that, what you see is you see a lot of talented, great basketball players go through high school, finish their high school career, and they're done. And I'll tell you why that happens. And my brother was one of them, because obviously my brother went on, did other things, and then judo national champion, 6-time world champion, and he's a great mentor and coach for thousands of athletes now. But in terms of basketball, he was unbelievable. He went to Ferayan, Ferayan High School. He averaged 28 points per game. Dominated Drew Holiday in the CIF playoffs. But he finished the year with no scholarships, not because he wasn't good enough. it just, he didn't have a strategy, he didn't have a plan, he didn't have the resources, and it happens too many times in our community. I'm sure you yourself know maybe 10 basketball players at the top of your head that could have been collegiate basketball players, and who knows what they would lead to after, that didn't necessarily have that opportunity because they didn't have the roadmap, the resources, the direction, the strategy. They just didn't have it. I was lucky to have that from a young age. How it was brought to me, it was seeked out. It was magical in a sense, but I had it, and I was able to navigate through each of the steps because the resources were kind of in my hands, and I put in the work as well. So now it's now it's about, yes, I'm still interested in my professional basketball career. Yes, I want to continue to go as far as I can, but ultimately, if I don't stop and stare at the amazing kids and amazing parents with an opportunity to do the same thing, and I don't help a lending hand, then I'm doing a disservice to myself. I'm doing a disservice to everybody.
I see. I, and that's something that, I've noticed on your Instagram as well. You've been paying some visits to some Armenian schools as well and talking to some of those kids. I was going to ask you to talk to us about like a couple of those schools that you visited and kind of how those all came together as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. So over the last, I want to say maybe 3, 4 years, I've had a lot of different opportunities in the sense of, public speaking events, different public events, and I've never had the time to go to any of them. Well, now that I'm going under a procedure under my wrist, I'm here in LA, I'm here, I'm stationary, and I decided to kind of go through each one, reach back out, and let them know that I'm here, and fortunately, there's been hundreds of opportunities that have presented itself. This is not going to stop. I will be going to a multitude of events, churches, schools, all around Los Angeles as well as surrounding cities. And really, what I'm doing when I go out there is just passing down the message. Number one, yesterday at AGBU, I talked about the three pillars to success. Number one, having the vision, keeping that vision there. Number two is having faith in yourself and executing the day-to-day work for a long period of time. And number three is having prayer be a cornerstone of everything that you do. So, all I'm doing is just passing down the message of what worked for me. How did I beat the odds of getting a Division I scholarship when the odds are, 1% or whatever? How did I beat the odds of being a professional basketball player when the odds are whatever, less than 1%? Well, there's a strategy to it. Obviously, you need the resources, but you also need to kind of maintain yourself, your mentality, your day-to-day work ethic. So I got to pass down what's working for me to the community, because I know that there will be, even if there's one kid or one parent that listens to me and takes it in, they're going to have an opportunity to progress their child, in a sense, through the different levels. So
That's really cool. I think it's really cool that you're kind of like in taking that on now and trying to just show, the next generation like, hey, this is what you got to do. But especially, that third pillar that you were talking about, which is, incorporating prayer into just about everything you do. That was going to be one of my questions following up is just, how important, faith and prayer has been for you personally.
oh yeah, no, it's been massive. It's been super massive in every step of the way. And it's funny because when when the summer league stuff started happening and the dots started connecting and stuff, I called my agent. I said, "Hey, Ara," I said, is this kind of spiritual? Is this magical?" He's like, "Look, let me tell you something." He's like, "I've been in the NBA for 20 years. I've been an agent in the NBA for 20 plus years." He's like, "I have never seen something like this click and play out like this in my entire life." In the sense of a kid going from Lebanon into the NBA summer league roster, it's unheard of, right? And even when you know the right people, even when you work hard, even when you're capable, it's still so hard to do. And I think the amount of time that I've spent reading the Bible, the amount of time that I've spent praying and really channeling in my inner spirit, and with this being said, I'm by no means perfect, right? Like, I'm not this saint kid that's like super perfect and does everything right. No, like I have my wrongs. I have, things that I'm working on day to day, just as we all do. But having that sense of prayer and faith is going to be super critical for some of these kids coming up, because they're trying to do something very, very, very special. And you need to have a special character and a special relationship with the Lord to make that happen.
I think especially now that's really important because we do see, religion not being as, popular for the
Mhm.
younger generation, but it is important to have that, feeling of faith and, that sort of understanding of a greater purpose and everything being, not about yourself essentially. And, I think that's really important in sports too, just because of, like you said, all the variables and all the uncertainty that exists that, maybe there's some kids out there that, when they're growing up, they just think, oh, I'm going to waltz into the NBA. Oh, I'm going to just easily just take on the competition because, oh, I'm dominating the competition around me. Like,
Hmm.
there's so many other kids that want to do the exact same thing you want to
Bro.
do, and they're all over the country, all over your state, and you got to go through that, you got to go through so many different challenges and so many different obstacles that, it is important to have faith. It's important to have that faith and be able to allow that to carry you on.
Hmm. Hmm. No, you're spot on, Jason, man. You're literally spot on, and it's a key factor. It's not talked about much. Even sometimes when I talk about it, I feel like maybe I should limit my talk about this, because I don't want people to think a certain way or think I'm like this weird guy or whatever. But I shouldn't be feeling like that. In all reality, I should be feeling the opposite, to really let loose and talk about how magical and how powerful that is. So it's important. And it ties in with everything else. And I say this at the schools I go to, faith without action is like a basketball that, without air, it doesn't bounce. You know what I mean? So the faith aspect is critical. But as a young, aspiring athlete, 10 years old, 11 years old, 14 years old, you got to sacrifice everything. You know what I mean? And it kind of goes right into why I'm starting what I'm calling the Blueprint Project. Right? The Blueprint Project is three pillars of basketball success, which I'm heading. And one is the academy, which is going to be straight skill development, training for these kids, and I'm going to be behind that. So I'm going to be working first hands with these kids, trying to develop them, trying to get them focused, pass down 15 years of experience that I've gained over college and the pros back down to these kids. And a number two pillar, which was key to my success, is the mental approach and the mental consulting, right? Because through a basketball career from a young age, you go through many ups and downs, mountains and valleys. I mean, it is tough. You need that mental support. You need that mental leadership, that mental strength to draw in the confidence. So my brother will be leading that department. My brother actually manages over 1,000 kids throughout his career. He's worked with NBA players, MMA fighters, and he's literally a professional at gauging you, understanding your issue, and basically providing feedback on how to triumph your loss or your victories, or your career in a sense. So that's pillar number two, mental coaching. Number three, super important, I'm bringing on my agent on board, Ara Vartanian, and I'm bringing on my manager, Coach Middlebrooks. Two key pillar pieces of my success. Coach Middlebrooks has gotten over 1,000 kids college basketball scholarships, me being one of them. Jack Karapetian being another one, who's got an Armenian kid who got a Division I scholarship, Kansas State, maybe 7, 8 years ago. And Ara Vartanian, who's an NBA agent for 20 years, he's going to be providing a great deal of value for these kids. So the Blueprint Project, it's called the Blueprint Project because I'm the blueprint, right? I live the experience. I open those doors, and now it's your turn. And I'm bringing in the pieces that are absolutely valuable that I think are missing in the community: skill development, mental coaching, career road mapping, which are the resources. So you need all three. So I'm excited.
When do you expect to launch this?
It's going to be launched in December. I'm trying to pick down a date right now to get this started, but it should be around early December, so it's right around the corner.
You got a lot of stuff coming up. I know in January, beginning of January, you also have an event that's going on at the Intuit Dome at the LA Clippers game, right? You announced that not too long ago. Can you tell us
Yeah.
about that too?
Yeah, that's an awesome one. So, as you guys know, I spent a couple years with the Clippers organization, fairly close with the general manager, fairly close with the coaching staff, and their general operations, and they're giving us one heck of an opportunity, and I want to pass it down to the Armenian kids and really anybody who's interested. And I know there's limited spots, but I don't think this will be the last time I'm doing this. We are going to go watch a Clippers game. I'm going to pick some parents. I'm going to pick some kids. And after the game, we're going to walk right down. We're going to walk right down on that court. And we're going to run a scrimmage. We're going to run some practices. So the kids are going to kind of get a feel of the arena, get some shots, get some work in. They might meet some of the Clippers staff. So it's going to be exciting, man. It's a good opportunity for these kids to just to feel it. Just feeling it sometimes is 90% of the battle, So
That's absolutely true. That's a really cool opportunity. You got that coming up. You got so many other events coming up with the next generation. You have your blueprint, the three pillars coming up. That's going to be really cool to see. And I think ultimately the goal is, yeah, like you said, just to see an Armenian kid really take that blueprint, take that, opportunity, take the tools essentially, and come up with some success.
absolutely, absolutely, Jason. Yeah, it's super important, man. We can't see, my vision is 10 years from now, we have 100 Armenian Division One basketball players. My
That would be
vision is
crazy. That'd be
that'd
really
be
awesome.
amazing, right? 10 years from now, we have 100 professional Armenian basketball players. This is where we want to head to. But if we want to get there, it needs to start at 15, 14, 10, 8, not at, parents go through high school, finish their high school career, and then say, hey, we want a basketball career. It's too late. Even if you dominated your senior year or whatever, I didn't have a Division I scholarship or any college basketball scholarships after high school. I had the right resources, and I went to a prep school. I dominated there, and my film was circulated through a pipeline. And luckily, one of the coaches liked me, took me on. My career began. So that's the vision. We want as many Armenian kids, as many as overlooked, underprivileged kids to make it. A college basketball scholarship is nowadays is worth like two, three, four, $500,000, depending on what school you're going to every year or whatever. So it's a big investment, and if you
Yeah.
want that, you got to start young. You know what I mean? Younger the better. So
There you go, man. I think that's all the time I got for you on the talk show this time around. I wish I had like so much more time. We'd chat a lot more. We
of
got a lot to
course,
catch up on outside of the show, but thank you
no
so much
worries.
for joining me. I really appreciate it. And for anybody who's interested in what Gary's doing and what he's coming up with, just follow him on his Instagram page at Gary C. And we'll put it on the show as well. But yeah, that's where you can find him.
Jace, I'm hoping for a coffee session with you here soon, brother.
Yeah,
We got to
that
sit
sounds
down.
good to me. That sounds good to me. I'll see you soon. Thank you again for joining me on the talk show.
Thank you for having me.